right, V, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen! Today is Sunday, August 9th, 2020. It is season 4, episode 32. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Bianca.
Hey, V, how's it going?
Hi, it's going good.
Good. So how was your week?
I had a whole week and that was just Thursday.
I know, right?
My Thursday was ridiculous.
So let's see. On Thursday, you after you did your entire day of work, you went and did your little your new YouTube stream, the C'est La Vie.
Are you gonna say my little YouTube stream?
I didn't. I almost did it. Sorry.
That's very disappointing.
I'm sorry.
It's actually just yes, no. So on Thursday, usually my full-time job have a lot of meetings Thursday anyway. So I get to the end of the work day and I'm already kind of like, where's the water? And then I've got my C'est La Vie stream, which is at 5:30, and then got secular sexuality at 7.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, I went and talked with another person. So it was just like I was on calls from noon until like 10:30 at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
By the time you stopped me, I was just like, I'm dead.
Yeah, you were dead. You were dead.
I'm
absolutely. I know that this last Monday we were going to do a live stream on my channel, and I got sick.
Yeah, you were not feeling good this last week.
No, I got laid out almost the whole week, and people were really, really supportive. But the bummer is that I've been putting out 3 episodes a week on my private channel, and I went an entire week without. So But I'm happy to be back, and I'm feeling better.
We're getting an episode tomorrow?
I am going to get in an episode tomorrow. Nice. Absolutely. I've got a guest named Bianca.
Ooh.
I don't know if that's new info for you.
Yeah, sounds like an asshole.
No, I think they're all right. So before we dive into calls, let's go in and give out our usual announcements. Mm-hmm. This show, Talk Heathen, is a product of the atheist community of Austin. The ACA is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the separation of religion and government and the promotion of positive atheism and growing this community. And so if you like what we do and you want to support us, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. 2/3 of the way through the episode, I thank our top 5 patrons. I'm getting better at this.
You are remembering on your own now. I'm so proud.
Me too. I have the screen up and I hit refresh right beforehand. So if you're watching live and you want to hear your name today, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me, becoming one of our top 5 patrons. Actually, it looks like it's a 5-way tie this week at the $25 level.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
I know. That said, there's also merchandise. I've got a Talk Heathen mug. bit.ly/AEN merch to get Talk Heathen stuff. There are shirts, there are mugs, and there are shirts, and we should put up other merch, I think.
Well, we are going to be changing things up, hopefully at some point in the near future anyway. So yeah, once that all rolls out, I'm sure we'll have some fun stickers and coasters and all of those, leggings so you can do yoga and with our faces on your butt. On your butt.
I don't think anyone wants that.
You know what? The internet has surprised me.
One last thing, and it's a bit of a personal one, and that is that this is the last episode in here in my roommate's studio. So I'm excited. We're gonna be moving to a new spot next week. I'm ready for it.
Nice.
So,
All right.
All right. You ready to dive into calls?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. We've got quite a few open spots. Before we hop into our first caller, if you want to talk to us, you can go to 512-991-9242. That's 512-991-9242. Talk Heathen to us. Give us a call if you're a religious person and you want to talk. Today is your day because we've got the availability. And I know that I say this often, but it is absolutely true. And that is that people complain about which callers we take. They say, hey, you take the same callers over and over again. Hey, we don't think that this apologist is a great representative of that apologetic.
Right. Or why are you only taking atheist callers?
Yeah. We've got 3 callers on the line right now. We take who calls in.
Yeah.
So if you want to be that person to call in and give a good defense of the faith, today's the day. We're ready to talk to you. We're open, we're willing, and we're wanting to have that conversation. So that said, let's see. What do you think? Let's talk to Bashar in the Middle East.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Bashar, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hey guys, how are you today?
Well,
so before I start, I just want to give
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So before I start, I just want to give a quick shout out to an atheist YouTuber called Sharif Gabber. He's like the only Arab YouTuber that I've ever heard of who like puts basically his life on the line just to talk about skepticism and things like that. Anyway, so I just wanted to talk to you about a personal dilemma I've been having, and like it sounds trivial, but it's a little like bothering me. It's basically that like when my theist friends come up to me and they ask me like, where should I start with atheism, or like what should I look for? What like I'm interested to hear more about it. A part of me obviously wants to like help them so that they no longer have to like deal with the guilt and whatever baggage comes with religion. But a part of me is instinctually like I want to discourage them because there's so much baggage that also comes with leaving religion and like the trauma or like the awful experience that you could go through and like dealing with people around you. So like I just want to see your take on it. Like which one would you go for if you were in my position?
Sure. Well, I can go first. You are not their keeper. You're not their babysitter. You're not their parent. And I think that while it's very sweet that you're concerned about the journey that comes with deconversion, I would say that the best thing to do is engage with them when they want to engage with you, and give them the opportunity. Give them the opportunity to learn. Give them the opportunity to make those decisions on their own. Because if you're making it for them, you're kind of robbing them of their autonomy. And I don't recommend that.
That said, there is something that I tell people mostly on the other show that I co-host, Secular Sexuality, which is a lot of people have the same kinds of questions about coming out as gay or as trans or some sexuality or gender identity. And the thing that we hammer home there is your physical safety comes first always. So there is certainly what Eric said. You are not in control of what happens to them after you give them the information. That is not something that you can own. That's not something that's on you. That said, they will then have to make a decision about whether or not they want to continue pursuing this and how much the risk of living in a situation where they're feeling like maybe they aren't living true to themselves is outweighed by, this could physically harm me. I'm dependent on parents who will kick me out if I come out as an atheist, or I live in a country where atheists are not tolerated. And so there are other components to that as well, but that does have to be their decision, and something that I certainly would encourage you to not put on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, giving someone information and causing them to think about why they believe what they believe, I don't think that's a dangerous or bad thing. I think that that in and of itself is not bad. What comes from it also is not bad. It's up to them to do with that information what they want.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I see. So, just a very quick, separate question. At what point, does family become, say, I've heard this whole thing where you give family or whoever a year to do whatever they want, and then after that you have to make a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a Rumspringa with Amish people. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So, you personally, at what point would you be like, okay, this isn't someone I want to be around, or it is someone I want to be around, or it's not worth.
Yeah, that is totally up to you, man. I mean, I have met people who just blow my mind, who have conversations with and live with and are in happy relationships with people who would drive me up the wall. And I consider myself to be pretty patient. And yet they have continuously shown that they're happy, content, and fulfilled. That's such a personal question that I don't think there's any kind of one-size-fits-all answer for it. The answer is however much you feel is right for you. You know, as long as you are fulfilled, as long as the relationships that you have are beneficial to you, fantastic. When they stop being that way, you have every right to make that cut at that time.
Yeah, there's some things to keep in mind as you're juggling this, because this is a really intense question and one that I've had to deal with as well. And there are a couple things that I look for both in the other person and in myself, right? For the other person, if they are willing to either engage honestly with the topic, even if we don't come to the same conclusion, even if we are always kind of tense in that conversation, if they're willing to engage with it honestly, I consider that to be still an open door. Not necessarily that I'm going to try pushing my agenda on them, but as long as they are not stereotyping me or pigeonholing me or not listening to me at all, then that's a conversation that I can continue to have. It's when that becomes I want to convert you again. I'm going to bring every conversation around to this and not listen to your boundaries and not respect where you're coming from, that we then begin to have the conversation of, well, maybe this isn't beneficial for us. On my end, I pay attention to what my body is doing. If that person calls me and I get anxious, right? Or if I have a 5-minute conversation with them and I'm suddenly just exhausted and engaging with them for 5 minutes just wipes me out, even if emotionally and mentally I'm not acknowledging that this is somebody who is harmful to me, my body knows it. And listening to that and being able to say, okay, this person takes a lot out of me, more than I'm willing to give right now. It might not have to be a forever thing, but for the time being, that's definitely someone that you should consider maybe, distancing yourself from a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully that helps.
All right. Yeah, that definitely helps. Thank you guys so much, and keep up the good work. Have a good rest of your day.
Will do.
Thank you
Take care,
so
buddy.
much.
All right. So I don't do this very often. Actually, I don't know if I've ever done this. We are shooting up in views. We're going to be hitting 1,500 soon. We don't have a lot of calls.
Yeah.
I need your help. If you are watching this, hop on Twitter, hop on Facebook, tag that Christian apologist you always wanted to call Talk Heathen. Otherwise,
you're going to have to listen to us vamp. You're going to have to listen to us vamp, and that's not fun for anybody.
No. So help us. Tweet out, Facebook out. Let's get some callers in. 512-991-9242. Or if it is international, you can go to tiny.cc/callth. That's tiny.cc/callth. That is toll free, online, so you can call in from anywhere around the world. That said, let's move on to our next caller. Let's talk to Nick in Tennessee. Nick, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about today?
Hey, so it's I guess a bit of a weird topic, but
That's all right. What's up?
Like useful takes on old religious and pagan practices from other cultures and ways of thinking and stuff.
Okay.
Sure.
Like what?
Yeah, give us an example.
Well, like I've talked on several occasions about like meditation, mindfulness, and things like that. And it got me wondering, like, what other things might be, I guess, more universally useful. Stuff like a deeper appreciation for nature. And like for me personally, I had a brief pagan stint between my Christianity and atheism. And it led me to like appreciating the power of a storm or the strength of a tree, things like that, that kind of remind me that my influence on the world is very little, and that I can let more things go and be kind of out of my hands.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? What does the pagan belief do to help you appreciate nature versus appreciating nature as a secular person?
Oh, well, yeah. Like I said, I'm not pagan. But it was like during that time that I first started to look at that, because as a Christian, the storm was just, either God's wrath or a force of nature that didn't mean anything. But I guess it's just the lens, the way of looking at it, or the way to think about things.
Well, yeah, we absorb and understand our world through stories. And that is, for some reason, the preferred way that our brains take stuff in. And so if we are focusing on stories about nature and stories that connect us to nature, it is going to be a lot easier to appreciate nature, as opposed to, did you know the average rainfall is, this amount of inches per quarter? Or, they're fun. Stats are fun and they're useful and they shouldn't be discounted. But when it comes to evoking a change in perspective, a lot of the time it needs to come alongside stories and mythology. And you can appreciate that and use it as a tool without necessarily suspending your critical thinking, or actually believing these things to be true, right? So I think that, personally for me, a couple of weeks ago, I did a tarot card reading on C'est la vie for the people in the live chat, and they were asking me questions, and I was pulling a card and giving them an answer based on, the traditional meaning of the card. And the whole time I was also explaining, hey, this is a Barnum statement. This is going to apply to everyone who gets this card because it sounds nice and you want it to apply to yourself. Or sometimes, I pulled this card. I don't think it's useful, so I'm going to make something up on the spot inspired by the card. And so I'm not even going to go off of what is traditionally meant by this. So I was explaining how it worked to people. And it still helped some people, right? It still gave some people an opportunity to think about things in a different way. That doesn't mean that they believed the card was magic, because I was actively dispelling that the entire time. But they were able to look at a problem with a new perspective.
I guess the question is this are you asking about this because you see kind of this pragmatic approach to looking at things through a different lens, or are you propping up the idea that people should believe this to be true? Like, are you asking about the
lens, like the first one.
The first one?
The lens, the way of kind of taking the practices, not necessarily the beliefs, and seeing if those practices, if they meant something to you, like in the case of tarot or other divination.
That's fine.
As a way to
just so long as people know that they're stories, that's fine. I find reading the Brothers Grimm was interesting. There are a lot of fairy tales that have lessons. Just so long as we don't kind of blur the line between propping up ideas that are based on bad reasoning and finding lessons in stories that we know are fictitious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as long as we're on the same page, then we're good, man.
I know this reminds me of a conversation that I had with somebody over email. They emailed Talk Heathen, and they were asking me specifically, because I am the one who talks a little bit about, secular witchcraft and all of that. He was like, hey, my daughter wants to watch the Harry Potter movies or read or some fantasy series. And I'm concerned about letting her do that because there's magic in it. And we don't believe in magic in this house. I don't want her to, have magical thinking incorporated into her diet necessarily. And it just struck me. And my response was, that sounds very Christian of you to say, I don't want my child to read Harry Potter because there's magic in it. Yeah. Like, the whole reason that we are skeptics and the whole reason that I love where I am now is because I don't have that concept of, I can't do this, I can do that, I shouldn't look at that because it's going to be, threatening to my worldview. It's fun, right? It's fun to watch. It's fun to experience. You can get a lot from it. It's just, it's a book, it's a movie, it's mythology, it's a pattern of thinking, it's a ritual, and the tools themselves are not powerful or magical. It's what you give to them that makes them useful or not.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, and was kind of looking for if y'all had any ideas or things from, because I know both of y'all were at one point Christian and grew out of that. And I was wondering if there were anything that from your history that you've kind of put in a secular light and kept with you. Because I know, like, for me, when I was moving out of religion, there was like a great sense of loss, kind of like that everything I had was falling away, and I was trying to find something to keep. And looking back, if I had a better idea of, hey, take the idea of tithing, and instead of giving it to God, give it to charity, or the idea of fasting, and instead of taking stop eating for a week or month or whatever, and instead abstain from drugs or alcohol or whatever else that might possibly have an influence over your life. Kind of putting those Christian ideas or those religious ideas into a secular light to make use of them as an atheist.
I think that's great. I've done exactly the same thing. I've done that. My tithe, I calculated how much a tithe would have been based on my income right now, and I'm giving that to American Atheists every month. And I did exactly the same thing. And here's the point that I want to drill home here before we move on, and that's, people say, well, religion can be beneficial, right? Religion gives us all of these things. And I agree with that. It does. We just don't need the religion part. And so taking those things that it does give us and does provide an outlet for, it teaches us how to be mindful about certain things or how to, practice self-control in certain areas. That's all great. Let's do that. And let's do that as secular people, so that when people come to us and say, well, you can't do this, this, and this without religion, you just look at your life and say, well, I'm doing all of those things. I just don't need that God belief to kind of hold it all together.
Yeah.
So
we're on the same page, man.
Sounds good. It's an interesting topic. But that said, I think we're going to move on to the next call. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask before we go?
One quick question, kind of directed at you, Eric.
What's that?
And it's a bit more lighthearted, but I know you've said before that you play D&D, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As an atheist, have you do you find any kind of influence or kind of irony in some of the characters, some of the stuff you play? Like, I find myself obsessed with paladins because they're so fucking confident. And it's like,
actually, that's the thing, is I am playing a paladin right now.
Right.
So the interesting thing about D&D is that is actually a universe where gods exist, and people see them and interact with them. And because of that, and because there are so many instances and occasions that it's very clearly seen that gods walk among people, that I don't think it's a hard pull. I don't think it's a hard push. I'm currently the chosen warrior of a trickster god, and it is a lot of fun. So absolutely. It's definitely given me a fresh look on how to treat deities. And I think that anybody who wants to kind of play with those ideas, and just like y'all were talking about, have a new outlook on that, D&D is a really good one.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've also found the Bible stories that I'm familiar with have made very interesting philosophical and quests for the players. Like, I have my wife is playing a
Nick. I would love to continue this conversation on Discord.
It sounds like a Discord.
Yeah, but this isn't a good format for this. This is a conversation less of a Q&A back and forth kind of thing. But thank you for calling in, man. I hope to see you in the Discord.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for helping us kill some time too, Nick.
Absolutely. We've got a ton of callers.
Now.
I love it. So Derek or Hayden?
Let's go with Derek first.
All right. Derek in Ohio. You're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about today?
I'm a Christian, and I would just like to know the difference between the witnesses in the Bible and the witnesses in the courtroom, because I tell you, in today's world, prosecutors, make people get found guilty with less evidence, and all they have is witnesses.
Well, actually, let's put that on trial really quick. Derek, let's put that on trial. Let's say you and I are sitting in the courtroom, okay? And it's time to call up the witness. So we call up a witness today in 2020. And we sit them down, we ask them questions. They talk about what they experienced and their point of view on things. We can cross-examine them, right? We have a lot of ways that we can verify and check their claims. We can look for corroborating evidence. So those are fantastic things that we can do nowadays. So let's put one of the authors in the Bible up, right? So let's say, I don't know, let's go with Matthew.
Sure.
No, Mark. Mark is the older one, right?
Mark is the oldest of the four.
Okay, let's go with Mark. So I put the book of Mark on the stand. Okay. Do we know who its author is?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't. I'm not sure.
Well, it's okay. Even if we did know the author of that one, there are definitely plenty of books in the Bible who we don't know the author, right?
But do you not think the people ask these people about Jesus and about what they saw and about what he did before they actually wrote it down?
No, that's a wonderful question, and I'm happy to go to it. But I just want to finish out your analogy first. Well, hold on, Derek. I want to finish out your analogy first because I think that's a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we go into court and I hand in a testimony by someone who we don't know who authored it, and we have no way of checking the facts of it. Do you think we would be justified in convicting somebody to go to jail off of an anonymous letter that's unverifiable,
that happens
untestable?
all the time. Innocent people are always in jail. Innocent people are put
Hold on.
in jail
No,
as
wait,
well.
Derek. Answer my question, because that is a really good way to not answer the question. You just sidestepped that. Let's try that again. Derek, on the evidence of an anonymous letter that is not verifiable, do you think it is justified? Do you think we would be justified in convicting somebody?
No.
I agree with you. So let's move forward. I'm happy that we're going to move forward. I will say that the statement you made about us having just as much evidence as we would have nowadays in 2020 has thoroughly been debunked, because we have just applied the same methodology we would to today as we would to that biblical narrative. So no, if anybody has told you that,
I'm not talking about the evidence. I'm talking about the witnesses themselves.
Well, first you need access to the witness, don't you? I mean, first you need access to the witness, don't you?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. People had access to these witnesses in the Bible. How do you think their story got told?
Got it. Fantastic. How do you think stories about any mythological deities get told? Just because it's written down doesn't mean it's true. I mean, if that's the case, then the Book of Eric is true because it's written down. How do you tell the difference between those things? How do you decipher what is true and what isn't true based off? Well, so if you just believe in the New Testament, can I ask you a couple questions? Because that's a really interesting viewpoint. Mm-hmm. So if you believe in the New Testament, I'm sure you believe that Jesus died on the cross, right?
I know where you're going with this, and I know the only part that atheists don't believe in about Jesus is the miracle part.
Actually, that's not even where I'm going with this, because that's a standard line that.
You don't have a problem that he actually was a real person and he actually said the things that he said. It's just the miracle part, right?
Well, again, yes, but Derek, your viewpoint is kind of a unique one that I want to explore. That's one of the things that I love about this show is we can engage with you and not just go on, the regular tired tropes and lines. Right. Derek, what confuses me?
I don't mean to keep interrupting you guys, but I watch the Atheist Experience too, and Matt does the same thing, so we won't.
No worries, Derek.
Backtrack, you know what I mean? But I apologize for interrupting you guys. And
Derek, there's a delay in the line.
Yeah.
No, that's okay, Derek. There's a delay in the line, and Derek, there's a delay in the line, and that's part of charitable listening. We are anticipating that you are an honest interlocutor. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. That's just how it is. So, question for you. If you don't believe in the Old Testament, then what did Jesus die for in the first place?
He died for our sins.
Hold on. The entire bit about sins being on people, the entire bit about needing sacrifice for sin, and all of the supposed prophecies about a coming savior are in the Old Testament. If you cut out the entire Old Testament, then what did Jesus die for?
Okay, I don't think you guys are understanding me quite well, and I think that's my fault because maybe I can explain it better. But I believe everything that Jesus said in the Bible, and I believe in Jesus, not anybody's else perspective, but the words of Jesus himself.
Understood. Now, that said, if you're just talking about the words in a story, there are a lot of good words and a lot of stories. And if you're just talking about that, then it's kind of taken so out of context that I don't know if that stands on its own. I recommend that you look into that, because there are things that are claimed, that Jesus claims, that are references to things that you're saying you don't believe in. And I don't think that holds.
Right. Whenever Jesus says, as it was written, he is referencing the Old Testament.
And when when they're referencing the law, when he says, I've not come to change the law, he's talking about the Mosaic laws as laid out in the Old Testament.
Right.
I've never thought of that before. Like I said.
No worries. It might be interesting to look into, because I'd love to hear your take on it later.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, explore it and see and we'd love to see what you think.
Can I ask you guys about evolution?
Sure. We're not scientists professionally. We're lay people, but we can do our best. What's up?
Evolution just has a lot of holes in its story.
Well, I'm glad that you are approaching this skeptically.
Well, evolution says that we came from monkeys, but yet there's like a million or thousands of monkeys all around the world still. So, I mean, are their brains just slower than ours and their brains haven't caught up yet?
Well, so actually that's a really, wow. I haven't heard we came from monkeys in a long time. I would look back into evolution and what is actually described in evolution. So nobody said we came from monkeys, first off. I can tell you that right away. When we're talking about evolution, let me see if I can maybe do this really, really quickly. Derek, I'm going to run you through a quick scenario and see if we can get through this thought experiment, okay?
Okay.
Okay, cool. So let's say there is a species of birds who are in a jungle, and at some point, several of them get cut off geographically. Maybe there's a large mountain range. Maybe they're on different islands now, okay? Over time, the ones who are able to adapt to their environment, maybe the ones with stronger beaks who are able to break into shells and things like that, that are beneficial to them on one island, are not necessarily beneficial to them on the other. So slowly, over hundreds of, just geological time, those things change. They change and change and change and change until they wind up becoming very different looking birds. Now, that doesn't mean they're different species. They're different species when they can no longer procreate together, when they have sex and there is no viable genetic offspring, right? That is speciation. And so that is all evolution is it is that slow change over time as we adapt to our environment. And so when we talk about monkeys, the reason monkeys get brought in is because our species, changed. And if we go way, way, way back, further than I think I think further than any humans can realistically comprehend, there was a common ancestor that's no longer around, right? It's the same way as saying dogs came from wolves, so why are there still wolves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you agree that civilization had to start somewhere?
I think it's a very slow process. If that's the case, if we're looking at it that way, then what is a civilization? You can take that all the way down to maybe a small tribe.
I asked you this question because scientists say that the first human species were in Africa. So if the first human species started in Africa, a civilization had to have been built on Africa, or else they wouldn't be able to cross the water. So why ain't Africa the richest country in the world right now?
Well, that's a whole conversation.
Yeah, that's a socio-political thing. But if you really want to look into it, I'd look into the Fertile Crescent. Take a look at the history of that region, and you're going to find a lot of incredibly early civilizations that were built around that time. That is a fascinating subject.
It is absolutely amazing. One book to maybe read if you're super into learning about how civilizations were constructed before the biblical stories kind of got started is When God Was a Woman by Merlin Stone. Talks a lot about the African civilizations that were built prior to 3000 BCE, which is when the whole concept of the more Judeo-Christian monotheistic war god kind of came into play. So yeah, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of years of history that we just don't have access to because it got lost. But there have been civilizations, there have been structures of worship and structures of trade and discovering of agriculture and of writing and of mathematics, all in that area. Yeah. So just because right now that part of the world has been subject to massive exploitation does not mean that is not where all of these things kind of started originating.
Yeah, it just, I mean, just to point you in a direction, when you say scientists say in this subject, you would be saying anthropologists. And I'd look into anthropology. It's interesting.
Well, maybe archaeologist was like a better word to use for that because they study that type of stuff.
Well, archaeologists, they're different things. You're talking about societies, and those are different subjects. But that said, Derek, this has been a really fun call.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear what you think once you start kind of exploring the whole New Testament sans Old Testament, or just the,
Well, just one quick thing before I'll let you guys off the phone here. You guys want evidence that God exists, right?
I mean, we would love that.
That is what the show's about. Yes.
Okay. So, if you may, I would like to give a prophetic word that God has given me. And you guys can save it, and then when it happens, you can see that it was a word from God.
Sure. So before you do that, let's make sure that we
right on the nail, and I will call back in November.
Okay, Derek.
Yes.
So first things first, how do we tell the difference between your prophecy and a faker's prophecy?
Okay, because listen, I know it's all just speculation until that day comes, but...
No. Well, hold on. Derek, there are people who actually make their living making hundreds and hundreds of prophecies. I mean, just ridiculous amounts of them, record them, and then anything that just so happens to have come true, they go, oh, see, here's my prophecy. And so we look at that and we go, you know what? Those are charlatans. Those are people who are taking advantage of others. There's an entire psychic fails compilation on my roommate Holy Kool-Aid's channel. And so what I'm asking you is, how do we tell the difference between your prophecy and someone else's? A real prophecy and a fake one.
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you because I'd say the prophecy that God gave me, and I will hit it nail on nail where everything's going to happen. And if you save it, and then like later on when that day comes and it happens, it's going to be nail to nail of what I just said. And if you allow that, if it don't come true, then I'm the one who looks like an idiot. You just gain more followers.
No, in fact, I don't want followers because you look like an idiot. That is not the point of the show. I don't want you to look like an idiot. Derek, I want to give you the tools so that you can understand the world around you better. And I don't want someone looking dumb or having egg on their face. I don't give a damn about people's egos. I don't give a damn about, feeling disrespected or I was talking to somebody and the response was, are you calling me a liar? I don't care. Just be true. Let's talk about true things. So help me, Derek. If someone can give a prophecy that comes true, let's say I have two prophecies that came true, and one of them is from a prophet and the other is from a charlatan. How do I tell the difference?
by the prophecy that person said and by
They're the
comparison
same.
to what actually happened that day.
Okay, so if I make a couple hundred guesses and one of those things come true, does that make me a prophet?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Let's say I spent the next 2 weeks writing down every possible thing that I can imagine is going to happen in the future, both mundane and incredibly specific. One of those hundreds and hundreds of things comes true. Does that make me a prophet? Maybe there's going to be an earthquake in California. Maybe there's going to be a hurricane in the South.
Yeah, it don't. If you predicted 100 things, only one out of the 100 came true.
Got it. So how do I know how many you've get? Well, actually, what do you think? Do you want him to give us his prophetic word?
I think we should give. I mean, we asked what was her name to take a peek at.
Tawana the witch.
Yeah, so let's
that's fair.
do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
What's your prophecy?
I'm writing it down on my phone.
All right.
So we've got.
Just let me finish. Just let me finish it before you guys reply. Okay, so God showed me in a dream that Russian soldiers were commanding Chinese soldiers to go into people's houses in Washington, D.C. and kill a bunch of people, and they was all wearing UN hats, and Trump was nowhere to be found. And,
Okay.
and
Well, I hope that last part's true at least.
let me finish.
There's more?
Fish come through the clouds, and he slammed on a calendar, and it said November 2020. So this will happen in November, and I will call back on November, and when everything I said nail to nail is true, then you guys will have your proof that God exists.
No, we would have a proof that you gave a prophecy.
Yeah, you could be.
Okay, but if I got it 100% correct, what does that tell you? You think I just made that up?
I mean, you could have. That's why I asked you how we can. That's why I asked you how we tell the difference. But you know what? That's enough.
Well,
Let's go from there, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else. Mark your calendars. In November, Derek is going to call back. Sound good, Derek?
Yeah, I will call back in November. I will call back in November, and when you see Russian soldiers and ordering around Chinese soldiers with UN hats, and the president and no leadership in America was to be found, then hopefully I can call in. I don't know if you guys probably have the shit, but anyway, that's the whole difference. I know it's just all
Sounds good.
speculation till then, but I'll call.
All right. Sorry, it was rambling a little bit at the end, and I needed to find a cut place, especially because we don't have too much time. Okay, let's move on and talk to Hayden.
All right.
Hayden.
I believe we've talked to Hayden before. I think, Hayden, you were on a call with me and Jen Aldridge, weren't you?
Yes, I've been on the show 1 or 2 times.
Okay. Well,
Cool.
welcome back.
All right, what's up? What do you want to talk about?
My last appearance was a few months ago, and after just reading the comments.
Ooh, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Hayden, that's a bad idea.
All right, but it perfectly exemplifies my point that a lot of atheists are just vindictive and pretentious, and think that they're morally and intellectually superior for believing.
So let's. Well,
I agree. I also think that there are a lot of Christians like that, and a lot of Muslims like that, and a lot of pagans like that. I think that you're describing human traits and applying a label to them because that's where you're looking. If you're looking in the comments of an atheist video, of course you're going to find atheists there, right? Have you looked at the comments on a Christian video where somebody's debating an atheist?
they're atrocious.
Do you see better behavior there?
I've had people actively wishing and saying that they were praying for me to die and suffer in hell, and even get into specifics about how they would want me to suffer and be tortured.
Okay, but like I know Christians and Orthodox religious people can be pretentious, and I'm saying that they're pretentious too. They might even be more pretentious than.
So how about we agree to hold our sides accountable? Because Hayden, do you think that that V and I are, pretentious and holier than thou, that we're looking down our noses at people?
Well, not particularly. I do feel like you have that attitude sometimes, but sometimes you turn a blind eye to that sort of attitude.
You know what, Hayden? I actually agree with you. There are times that I will watch back the show and think, man, Eric, you look like an ass. So I'll agree with you on that. But if the call is to further the discourse and improve the way that we talk to and about each other, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cheers. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Because I don't know if there's a lot of meat left on that bone.
So what are you guys doing to address that issue, to make it better and to, fix it?
We're modeling how we want it to be. So the way we're talking to you is hopefully going to be an example. If people see, hey, this is how these atheists are talking to these religious people, maybe they can go, hey, that is a point of, okay, this is a way to do it. And then moving forward.
Right. When atheists call in to ask us questions about how to interact with their religious family members, we advise them to be respectful and engaged and open and have conversations and not resort to insults. So yeah, we're trying our best, and because we have a platform that other people watch and hopefully emulate to an extent, that's kind of what we're doing. What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming that if we're holding our side accountable, how are you holding your side accountable?
I've been talking to a lot of Christians and Muslims and stuff, trying to calmly explain to them from an outside perspective, because I used to be an atheist, and so I was really deep into the community, and I used to be the exact sort of like haughty atheist that I'm talking about. So I feel like when I talk to religious people, I can give them a different perspective that they haven't gotten before, and how to talk to and treat atheists. And I feel like I've been doing a good job of trying to explain to them that.
And that we then that's commendable.
Yeah.
I feel like we're doing a pretty good job too.
Yeah. Something you might want to try doing is we talk to a couple apologists who call in pretty regularly on this show. Dean, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to an episode of Talk Heathen and listen to our conversations with Dean, who is an apologist, we do have a respectful, amicable back and forth, and we model that for people. So, yeah, I think if you're doing that and we're doing that, then we're doing all we can. We can't control how others act. We can't control what others say or don't say, apart from, getting rid of some really terrible things in the comments. But for the most part, we value changing people's minds, not restricting what they're saying.
Well, that's the live chat. The YouTube comments we just leave alone entirely. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here. When it comes to the YouTube comments, there's just way too many for us to
we get it too. We get it more than the callers get it sometimes. Like, there will be people and other atheists, people who love the show, in the comments, bashing at us. We read the comments because we're masochists, but
they're fun.
Yeah, it's not a just for Christians thing. I get a lot of hate from atheists for being non-binary. Yeah. That's a thing that I have to deal with. But I'm not going to make the assumption that all atheists dislike that about me.
Right. I get a lot of hate for being a smug prick. I don't know. I kind of agree with them. I'm working on it though.
Yeah, but so can you look into the camera or something and say, you annoying atheists in the comments, be quiet, I don't agree with you?
Well,
so we've done that before. And the thing is you have to see that there are some places, and I want you to really imagine this, Hayden, for people who are in their own group, when it comes to having a place to blow off steam, I see value in it. I don't think that is the place where we engage civilly with people who, disagree, but there are going to be people who are blowing off steam. Mm-hmm. And I kind of see the YouTube comments as a pretty safe place. I mean, there are a lot of people who maybe just had a really, really bad day and just want to take it out on the video they're watching. I'm okay with that. I guess I don't want to stifle people's ability to talk, even if it's calling us names.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that's just not the place. I would rather focus on the actual dialogue between us. If we can model that, I think we're doing well.
Yeah, I get what you mean by that because I've experienced that a lot myself with being a member of the LGBT community and just having a lot of disdain for my upbringing and how they treated trans people like myself and just taking out steam online. But I realized that that's not the
Hayden,
correct way of like discourse.
You've called the show, haven't you?
Yeah.
Did you email recently?
Did I email? No.
No. Okay. We had a theist person email in, and we had misgendered them the entire call. And if that person's listening, I sincerely apologize.
Yes.
That said, Hayden, is there anything else?
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm just thinking how people in the comments are going to be, like, flaming me and insulting me, and it's just going to be...
Don't go in there.
Yeah.
Don't go in there.
There's no benefit to it.
No. Practice some self-compassion. Don't dive in there. The only reason we dive in there is, because we're masochists, but you're not going to change trolls on the internet. It's not going to happen.
And you said you guys have a Discord server?
We do.
We do. Yeah.
There's an ACA Discord. We'll see if we can pop that up in the lower third, and I think it's definitely in the description for this video.
Yes.
Okay, I'll join and then continue on with this discussion.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Tiny.cc/ACA Discord. Take care, Hayden.
All right, thanks.
That was nice.
We will not fight you. We know you want to fight. We're not going to fight.
Yeah. So let's talk to Alex in Kentucky.
All right.
Alex, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
I was just thinking about if you know how you retrace your footsteps, like you walk into a room and you lay something down, like say on a table, and you say, "Well, I forgot where I laid that at." You know, you walk out of the room, you say, "I forgot where I laid that at," and you retrace your footsteps and you go back to find where that phone is at.
I had that the other day.
Yeah.
It drove me nuts.
Mm-hmm. My mom used to offer us change, like, I'll give you 25 cents if you can find my coffee mug, because I lost it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So couldn't you kind of like do the same thing with God? Couldn't you say, hey, how is God, like if God is real, like if I left that thing in that room, how can I find it? You get what I'm saying?
But here's the thing: do you think that God is a tangible thing like a coffee mug or a set of keys or a remote control?
He's way more than that. He's way more than the mug. So it would be just as likely to find him. But he's just as real as that. You get what I'm saying? He's more real though. So he would be even.
I think more real is kind of a weird word that I don't think means anything. I think there's either real or not real. But let's look at the God concept first. So you're saying that God's real and it's tangible. So what does God look like? Maybe I just don't know that God's sitting on my couch.
Nobody's ever seen the spirit of God, you know, his face, but people have seen Jesus, which is the image of God. And we're all made in the image of God.
It's in the other room. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen my cup. I know what my cup looks like. Coffee mug.
Right. The thing that I think Eric is getting to, and where I'm kind of getting hung up is, I can say, oh, I left my coffee mug in the other room. I need to remember where it is. But that depends on me having had the coffee mug in the first place.
Yeah.
To sit down and lose.
Where did you put your Jesus?
Right, exactly. Where did I put the face of God? I don't think I had it before. So why would it be a backtrack kind of situation for me?
And
okay, so
like, was it? Can you put him in your back pocket? What's the?
We believe in sight. Sight is what makes the world go around, right? Sight. Wouldn't you say that because you can't see God? That's what you just said, that you can't see God, so he is not real, right? So,
we were going with your example.
Right.
You were going with examples that we can touch, that we can feel, that we can examine and see and interact with. But those don't seem to be qualities of the God that you're talking about. So I don't know how your analogy works.
Right.
I examine if God is real through the Holy Spirit, and the evidence of the Holy Spirit would be speaking in tongues, right?
Hold on a second.
Would that be the
Well, hold on. Yeah. So let me give you. So that's just a claim that is really, really interesting. So let me give you a counterexample. Alex, I think I'm God through my mojo, and through my mojo, that is the proof of it. So now, do you believe that I am a deity or that I'm a God?
The evidence of speaking in tongues, which means that I've received the Holy Spirit.
Hold on, Alex. Did you hear what I said?
What did you say?
Were you just waiting for your turn to talk?
I was waiting on you to tell me what you said because I was like not hearing what you said, I guess.
Okay, no worries. That's okay. I'm giving you a counterexample. So you said that you have evidence for God because of the Holy Spirit, right? And through the Holy Spirit, you're able to.
There's creation. If you do what I said, you never answered my question. If you go from retracing God the same way you retrace your footsteps, and you say, "Where did I leave that at?" Or if you say, "Hey, where is God at? Where is the evidence of God at?" and you go look for the evidence.
Oh, you think we haven't looked for the evidence?
Do you think we answered your question too? That entire conversation, talking about the mugs, talking about our experiences with that, talking about how there are tangible things and all. Those are all answers to your question. We answered your question.
So because you can touch it is the only reason it would be real if you could touch God.
No, you're using examples of something you can touch to prove God, and we are saying we can't touch God. So your analogy doesn't work.
Give us a better analogy, because
A better analogy of God, okay? Well, retrace your footsteps, okay?
Okay.
And find something that you lost. That's what I'm doing with God.
Okay, so do you have to have had it in the first place to lose it?
Had to have had it in the first place?
Yeah.
No, you don't have.
So can I lose a Ferrari that I never had? And can I retrace my footsteps to get back to my Ferrari?
That has nothing. You're not understanding what I'm saying.
No. Listen and follow me, Alex, please. I do have a point. I promise. I never owned a Ferrari.
I understand.
Can I retrace my footprints and find my Ferrari?
That has nothing to do with it. That's another.
No, answer the question, please, Alex. We're going somewhere, and this isn't Alex's time to walk poor little Eric and V through your analogy. You are going to interact with us, or we're going to move on to the next caller. So,
all right. So
I've never owned a Ferrari. Can I retrace my footsteps back to and find my Ferrari?
I mean, there's a possibility that you could, yes.
Okay, so I can retrace my footsteps and find and get my Ferrari that I've never had back to me?
If you never had a Ferrari, why would you be trying to retrace your steps?
Exactly. We never had a God, so how would retracing our steps help?
If you think that there could be a Ferrari that you had, why would you think that there would be a Ferrari that you had if you didn't have one? That's not my point. My point is if there's evidence, you're looking for evidence. You're saying, if there is evidence.
No, hold on. That's not how your analogy works.
Yeah.
Alex, I don't know if you see that the analogy you gave doesn't work. I just gave you a clear example, and your response is perfect. I agree with you. It is just also true for God.
To say, if I had a Ferrari, where would I have left it at?
Agreed.
If
so
I have evidence, we're not looking for a Ferrari. We're looking for evidence. If there's evidence that God does exist, could I go back through the Word and find out if God exists?
Why do you assume we haven't done that?
What?
Why do you assume that we haven't looked through the evidence that used to convince us and determine if it still does? That's what we did. That's how we became atheists.
No, not not to determine if it still convinces you, to determine if God actually exists.
The ontological question of it, sure.
No one's ever proven it wrong. No one's ever proven it wrong.
What is it?
It's not
First, be clear about your claim. So it sounds like we are completely ditching your analogy, which is fine. Proven what wrong, Alex?
What's the answer to that question? How do you prove that God's not true if you use the Bible? And people say you can't prove it if you use the Bible. Well, that's the only evidence that we have.
Can you prove that God is not true using the Bible? Is that your statement?
My statement is, if you want to know if God is real and you use the only evidence that's given and you go back through that evidence and you can't prove the evidence wrong, then you must believe that evidence until some better evidence comes along.
Got it. So you will believe the thing until you can prove it wrong. So do you believe in Bigfoot?
You believe in a thing till you prove it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's the process that you just gave, Alex. So do you believe in Bigfoot, yes or no?
I've never been talked to by Bigfoot. Bigfoot doesn't have a Bible.
Okay, hold on. Just a yes or no, that's all. Do you believe that Bigfoot exists?
He doesn't impact my life. No.
Don't care. Yes or no? Do you believe that Bigfoot exists?
No, I don't. But do you?
Okay, hold on. Stop. I'm glad you answered the question. No, you don't believe that Bigfoot exists. So we're using your process now, Alex. How did you prove that Bigfoot doesn't exist?
How did I prove it? I've never proven it before.
Okay, so why are you using that process when you're talking about God? You're saying it has to be proven false. No one's ever proven it false.
So
that's why you have to believe it. So you haven't proven Bigfoot false. Alex, you cannot listen with your mouth open.
But I can't talk with my mouth open.
Exactly. So, and that would make this conversation useless. So please, let's take turns and be civil about this. When it comes to Bigfoot, you have said you do not believe that Bigfoot exists. Did you did not prove Bigfoot doesn't exist? So why are you using that for God? You're saying nobody's proven God doesn't exist, so you have to believe. Okay, nobody's proven Bigfoot doesn't exist, so you have to believe. I'm using the exact same reasoning, but you're coming to two different conclusions, and I don't know why.
No, what I'm saying is, does Bigfoot exist? Let's examine that. Does Bigfoot exist? Where is his proof? Where's the evidence that Bigfoot exists? It's not in a picture. That's not for God, right? Like, we don't say God is in a picture, so we believe him because he's in a picture.
I agree. I think we need better evidence for both of them.
No, we have all the evidence we need.
Well, for Bigfoot or for God?
You don't want to see it.
I guarantee you there are websites and websites dedicated to Bigfoot.
I'm right. That's why you're trying to use all these analogies on me so that you can sound right. But your analogies are my analogies. Like,
we're using yours. We're just thinking about them a little more, maybe.
No, I'm thinking thoroughly, but I'm not trying to argue. I'm trying to let you know that you still haven't answered my question. If we're trying to find Bigfoot, wouldn't we do the same thing? Wouldn't we go back and say, okay, where's the evidence for Bigfoot? Where's Bigfoot's evidence?
I'm pretty sure you haven't asked that question, but I'm happy to respond. We are going down a little bit of a rabbit trail here. Is this still the conversation that we're having about retracing your footsteps?
Yes, it is. How do you retrace Bigfoot's footsteps? How do you find Bigfoot in the evidence? Where's the evidence?
I agree. I don't think there is any. So let's take this entire viewpoint and flip it on its head, because I think it's a little better that way. How about the time to believe something is when you have evidence for it? That's when you believe a thing. Not evidence against, but evidence for. What do you think of that? Is that a good idea?
Evidence.
Can we be on board with that, Alex?
What is gravity?
Alex?
Tell me. Yes.
What did I just say?
What is gravity?
I did not say what is gravity. What did I just say?
What did you just say? I'm sorry, say it again.
Alex, there's a bit of a listening issue here. So what if we turn this on its head and we say the time to believe a thing is when there's evidence for it?
No.
Would you agree that that is a better way to look at things instead of there isn't evidence proving it wrong?
Oh, wow.
Right? When there's evidence for a thing, that's when you believe it.
All right. So where's the evidence for Bigfoot?
I don't think there's good evidence for it.
Yeah, we don't believe in Bigfoot,
That's why
just to be clear.
I do have evidence for God. You haven't told me that there's no evidence for God.
Well, so let's take a look. So I know that there are people who say that they have pictures of Bigfoot and then they have footprints that they've cast of Bigfoot. So it's up to us to analyze those things, right? So let's analyze what you are calling evidence for God. What evidence do you have?
I have the Bible.
Okay, so you have a bunch of stories written by mostly people who we have no idea who they are.
Right, we've looked at that evidence already. It didn't convince us.
Yeah, anonymous authors don't make for super convincing stories.
Yeah, sorry about that. What else do you got?
Okay, so you're saying that just because you don't know a person, that 100% they're lying.
No, that's not true.
No.
But I will be skeptical about weird claims. So I don't need to know you, right? Call Alex. I don't know you. I don't know what you had for breakfast. But if you tell me, I'll believe you. Sure. But if you say something miraculous, then I'm gonna need a lot more evidence for that. So when it comes to benign claims about made by unknown authors, this place existed. Okay, fine. This person went to this place. Okay, fine. Their name was this. Okay, whatever. They walked on water. Okay, now we should probably take a more skeptical eye at that.
And then add on to that, they walked on water, and if you don't believe that, your eternal soul, which apparently is a thing, is in danger, then we really need some proof to back that up. Because if not only are we supposed to believe that this claim is true, but also that it's going to impact us today, right now, and adjust how we live our lives, that requires a whole lot more evidence than someone in a book said something once.
Okay, you talked and talked and talked, and okay, let's just say this: if you wanted to take, see y'all, that's what y'all are good at this. Y'all are good at this. Let me see.
We've practiced, but here's the thing. Here's the one that benefits you the most. Alex?
You rambled. Hello? Yeah, this is me. You rambled and made me forget my thought.
That's okay. Actually, that happens when you actively listen. I appreciate that you were actively listening. That meant that you were following along with the conversation more than you were just holding on to something.
You kept rambling and made me forget my thought.
Yeah, we answered your question, Alex. But here's the thing. You can be good at this too. You can watch this call back. And after you watch this call back, you can go, okay, here's where they were at. And you have an entire week. And if you don't want to call next week, you have weeks and weeks, as long as you want, to take your time, go through it, and come back.
Yeah.
Go through the call back, because I had something to say, and you never answered any of my questions. You just
answered every single one of your questions. No, hold on. That is not fair. We answered all of them.
We may not have answered them the way you wanted us to, but we answered them.
Oh, I got my thought. Can I? Okay.
I don't think he was even. Were you just killing time until you thought of it? Alex, this does not seem like a very charitable conversation on your side.
Oh my goodness! If you know that the Bible's not real, then have you examined every piece of evidence?
Yeah. So
have you examined every piece of evidence? You have.
Okay, Alex.
That was my thought. You've examined every piece of evidence that's in the Bible?
No worries. So we actually already answered a big piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what our answer was when it comes to benign claims made by anonymous authors? Oh, he hung up. Well,
all right.
That was fun. That's okay. He can go back and watch.
Yes. Please
that said, let's thank our patrons. It's about that time.
It is. It's a little past that time.
Is it? Oh my goodness. Oh, how are we so far?
Well, we did lose 15 minutes.
We did.
So.
Okay. I want to thank our top 5 patrons, Dingaloo, Jay Friedman, Kamal, Ribau, And Ward Nippling, a 5-way tie at $25.
Nice.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
If you like the show and you want to help keep it going, because it is entirely funded and produced through the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a nonprofit that depends on donations to supplement making this happen.
Because of you, we get to talk to Alex.
Absolutely. Consider going to patreon.com/Talk Heathen to me. That's patreon.com/Talk Heathen to me. All right. I kind of want to talk to Phil.
Yes, let's talk with Phil.
Phil in North Carolina. You're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, Eric and V. I enjoyed the show. Thank you guys for taking the call.
Yay.
Sure, thanks for calling in.
Yes, I would be, I guess, a quick history. I was agnostic for about 15 years after growing up in a very, very religious home. And my mantra was, I don't know and I'm okay. And then I stumbled on John Shelby Spong, not sure if you're familiar, but a Episcopal bishop who really casted the Christian story in a different perspective. So that was, and I would say now, if pressed, I would consider myself a Christian in the John Shelby Spong fashion. I think it's pretty harmless. I think you still get the God that so many people want. And I guess I was calling to say that the last time I Googled it, because I just think about religion and listen to you guys all the time and atheist experience and all the other stuff. But 85% of the world believes in something. You know, if we look at our history, we've always believed in something as a human race. So if 85%, even now with all the information, even looking at all the information that we see in the Bible and the holy books and the ridiculousness of it, and people still say yes. You know, burning bush, Exodus 21, if they still do that, it seems like if they're pushed to something that's a little bit more benign, or they could believe in that it'd be a much better existence for all of us.
So here's the thing. I think the first is my mom told me as a child, if all of your friends jumped off a bridge, would you?
Right.
Right. When it comes to philosophy, this is the ad populum argument, right? It's true because a lot of people believe it. I think no matter how many people believe a thing, that actually has no impact on whether or not the thing itself is true. Mm-hmm. It just means that those people believe it.
Right.
Okay.
And so the example I would give you, because I was agnostic for about 15 years, but I was very frustrated too, because I'm African American. I would take African American friends and family through Exodus 21 and go, how in the bleepity bleep can you make okay with this? How do you make this okay? And person after person, they would twist themselves in what I call theological pretzels as African Americans to make Exodus 21 okay. And I after a while I went, there's something there. They're looking at the same bullshit that I'm looking at, but somehow they have to make it right. And I don't have that thing, but 85% of the world does. And I absolutely believe that the secular and atheists are way closer to the truth than any religion. However, I go, it exists though. 85% of the world exists, and a better way for us so we don't have to downgrade the LGBTQ community, that we don't have to downgrade women, is to be able to cast this story possibly in another way that seems like a more honest approach, and say, hey, you get most of your God, you get your choir, you get your social, but you just don't have to sit in judgment of other people. Yeah.
Do you know that in 2017 there was the USDA did a study, and apparently 7% of Americans think chocolate milk comes from brown cows, and 48% don't know how it's made. That's it's over 16 million American adults don't know how chocolate milk is made. Does that mean that we don't know how chocolate milk is made because 50% of Americans don't know?
Good analogy, but for well-being, if that's where we're all headed for, chocolate milk is that's, I absolutely believe that. But when it comes to, religion informs the way that who we marry.
So we're talking, we're going around the whole Kant route of the moral argument, which is not we're making the argument that you should believe in God because he exists, but rather we're making the argument you should believe in a God because I see that as the best course for society from a moral standpoint. Is that where we're going with this?
Partially, and then, yeah, I guess because on Atheist Experience, I forget the guy's name, but the thinking atheist guy who I like, and I was introduced on that show, he started talking about him thinking about the utility of religion. And I think of it in much the same terms. And again, I take the Bible seriously, but not literally at all. And I mean, seriously, that, a lot of people believe in it, and then kind of, there are things in there that are great, and there's also nonsense. Just trying to look at it honestly. And my thing is, again, I get that the closer thing that we know how we engage the world is we probably be atheists or agnostics. However, for whatever reason, what is, just like those people I talked to in that anecdote, my friends and family, for whatever reason, we are so susceptible to believing in a God. So it's like, okay, if that's true, how do we push forward? Because I'd love for everybody to be thinking, but I just think it gives this construct where people they accept whatever personal thing and social thing, and then they add in all this BS too, and that just seems to be the way that it is.
Well, Mike, I guess I see where you're coming from. I do. Thank you for clarifying, because I get where you're coming from with that. If 85%, if a large portion of the world finds value in this and is going to do it anyway, how do we mitigate it? In a way that, maybe allows them their God while also getting rid of all the bullshit. The problem there is that by saying, okay, you can have some unfounded beliefs that you don't need to back up with evidence, that opens up the gate to any belief that they want that they can then hold without evidence. And a lot of that is going to be harmful to people, right? I can believe that vaccines don't work or are harmful, and I don't need evidence because I've been told by Phil that I can believe in a God without evidence. Therefore, I should be able to believe in this lesser important thing without evidence as well. But then that directly harms me and my kids and the kids that go to the school with mine. And
yeah, that's exactly why there's a problem with viewing truth through a pragmatic lens.
Right, exactly.
Not everybody has your values, and because of that, the way that they are going to approach things is going to be different, which means that we're never actually going to be able to agree on what is true about the world. And so I don't think that, pragmatism is a good approach here. And you're moving from is to ought a lot. And those are kind of two different conversations. So first off, people are wondering exactly about this call. Phil, in the description, it says, wants to defend cafeteria Christians.
Yeah.
Well, I love that term. It definitely takes me back. For people who have not been religious, Phil, do you want to describe what a cafeteria Christian is?
Well, I only got introduced to it from you guys, and
really, we're perpetuating.
Yeah, it was like you, and then
Matt,
crap.
Yeah. So, and I because I'd heard, even from the apologist podcast that I could suffer my way through, they would mention it a couple times, but I really heard it from you guys. And then also I called and I say in defense, because I always, and Eric, I love your personality, but it was also kind of like a scoffing cafeteria Christian.
Because it was actually a pejorative in the church.
Right. My thing is, first of all, we're all, because to me, cafeteria Christians means picking and choosing. And just like those other Christians that chose to ignore Exodus 21, just like, they embrace the homophobic parts, but ignore the linen and the fabric parts. We all pick and choose. That's why you have so many denominations. So my thing is, can we decide on a basis of picking and choosing that is better?
Oh, geez. Okay. So I'm sorry. We've got to clear through a little faster. I didn't realize what time it was. So again, though, that's really a question of how we ought to treat people, not whether or not that God is true. And we can talk about either, but if we talk about both at the same time, I think we're going to talk past each other.
And I do think that there is value in moving people along slowly, right? We don't have to say your beliefs are unfounded and harmful, therefore you should get rid of all of them right away. That's the only option. If people are cafeteria Christianing all over the place and being like, okay, well, I'm only picking the good stuff and the stuff that works with humanist values and the stuff that's progressive, that's great. I have so many progressive Christian friends who cherry pick the hell out of their holy text, right? They just, go at it with a fucking sledgehammer. But I appreciate them because they are moving towards a future that is progressive, that is humanist, that is compassionate, and that's great. And I'm not going to say that they're doing a bad thing, but they are also opening themselves up to potential harmful thoughts because they aren't actually engaging in critical thought to the extent that it would get them out of the faith altogether. So I'm not saying by any means that I don't think we would hold the line that if you're a cafeteria Christian, you should be a fundamentalist instead. The goal is to get you slowly out of fundamentalism if possible. And if cafeteria Christian is a stop on that journey, then that's cool. I think that it's the motivation is good there, right? The motivation is I need to make this work with the people around me and the world that I live in and have this benefit other people. Those are good instincts. And if that's the way you interpret it, that's great. But that can't be the end goal.
Exactly. And we do hold our own accountable too. Earlier on in this episode, we had somebody call in who said, should I, could I, what would be the right way to go about talking to people about this kind of a thing? Right. We do hold our own accountable. It's not a question of ought. This is a question of is. If it is just true that God exists, it doesn't matter if that God's a nice person. It doesn't matter if that God's a terrible monster. We just want to know first if that God exists, right. And then we can have other conversations about the nature of that God. And so you're kind of moving into this people should territory. And I think first, let's start with the is territory. Let's start ontologically.
And I know you guys mentioned time, so if you need to go, I can go, but I'll keep going until there.
But I'd love for you to call back in.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I'll call back. But I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate it too. Sure. Phil, do me a favor, man. Call earlier. I would have loved to see you at the top of the show and been like, cool, we can talk to Phil, and made sure that we had made more time for you.
Yeah, call in right at the top of the hour. Make sure you mention that we talked to you last week, and happy to talk to you again.
Yeah.
I will do that. You guys have a good Sunday.
You as well.
All right, let's quickly move on. Who do you want to talk
to? Let's go with Kendall.
All right, Kendall in Washington.
Hello again.
Hey, Kendall.
Hey, I'll be real quick. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So, yeah.
I hate that. I wish that I could give you all of the time that you deserve, man.
No, it's all good. No. Let me just go real quick, man. So I asked you, you said yes to my question. So I wanted to ask you what accumulation of supposed evidence against Christianity made you an atheist, or what accumulation of evidence are you looking for that would prove Christianity to you?
What was it? Is it supposed evidence if it's against it, but evidence if it's for it? When you say supposed, that kind of poisons the well.
Yeah,
evidence is either evidence.
I'm a Christian, so I don't think there is. So that's why I said.
Don't use supposed, first off, please. It's condescending. I don't say what is your supposed
really?
Evidence for
I didn't mean that.
Right? What if I said, what is your supposed evidence for God?
Oh, no, I said against Christianity.
It's a nitpick, but anyway.
All right. Ahead. So yeah. I want to lay something out for you, Kendall. And this is something that we should have laid out with previous callers this week as well, because it seems to be a common misconception. I can't speak for all atheists. Of course, I am but one person. But for me, it was less of evidence against Christianity and more, I was presented a body of evidence for it. And then in studying it, in expanding my knowledge, in delving deep into it, in learning Koine Greek, in taking Bible classes and history of the Bible and theology and all of these classes, I started realizing that the evidence that had been presented wasn't as compelling. So I'm now at net zero. I'm neutral, right? I don't have evidence that God doesn't exist over here. I don't have any evidence at all either way, which means I don't believe in a God, which makes me an atheist.
Are you the same way, Erica? Sorry.
Well, I'm in a really nitpicky mood. I think if you...
You're in a mood, aren't you?
I am. I think if you defined a God that like didn't logically make any sense, then I would say I can show you that God doesn't exist. But I mean, to be charitable about it, yeah, I'm in the same spot.
Okay. All right. Well, one more thing that to leave you guys with.
So.
One more thing. Hello?
Yep, we're here.
We're listening.
Oh, okay, you were kind of breaking out. All right, so tell Matt I'm coming for him for the slavery topic.
Here's the thing, man. It's not our show. That's another ACA show that's fantastic, but call into AXP for that. We're Talk Heathen. We're worth your time alone. All right, Merissa in Washington. You're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I called a few months ago, and I just couldn't deconverted or whatever like a few months ago. And I feel super behind, socially and educationally. And I was wondering if you guys ever, felt that way and how you kind of dealt with it. Because I kind of feel like I have to learn everything all at once before I can tell anybody that I lost my faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That hits super close to home for me, Merissa. That is exactly the situation I was in, especially for certain subjects, right? Like history and science specifically. Both of those, I realized after leaving, I had a really bad miseducation on those two subjects, and I needed to relearn everything, and I didn't even know where to start. And one thing that I didn't want to do is just take stuff on faith again, right? And be like, oh, well, of course evolution's real. I don't know why. I don't understand, but yeah, it is. I actually wanted to get to know, okay, what did I miss out on? What is the process? How do I break this down? The best way that I found, honestly, is finding people on YouTube who are good at communicating it. For evolution, Aaron Ra and Vice Rhino are two really, really great atheist content creators who break down all of that scientific stuff directly to refute a lot of creationist claims. From the historical standpoint, I started buying history books, right? Right now I'm reading Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi, and it talks about the founding of the United States, but from the position of here's what happened to the African people who were brought over and enslaved, and here's what George Washington was really like, and here's what Thomas Jefferson was really like. And it's giving me a new perspective on a whole lot of stuff that, because I was raised in a very kind of white nationalist, kind of conservative Christianity, I had no idea about. So on the one hand, it is very overwhelming, and it's going to be for a little while, and that's okay. It's understandable. It makes sense. But after a while, once you've got the basics down, it's actually really fun and really exciting to be like, I get to experience all of this as an adult, as someone who is excited to learn, as someone who has the freedom to pursue this in any direction I want. If I'm curious about early American history, that's what I'm going to go for. If I'm curious about what we were talking about before, the civilizations and prehistory and the Fertile Crescent, that's what I'm going to focus on. It is a mindset shift for sure. And it doesn't have to happen right away, but I would suggest kind of framing it in that way. It's not that you have done anything wrong and you're behind and you need to make up for it. It's this is an opportunity to educate yourself in whatever direction you want without guilt, without anyone shaming you for it. And if you have questions, that's where we come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just kind of want to tie in there. And that is that you are improving your toolkit.
Yeah.
And that is all there is to it. The better you have the tools to understand things around you.
I said, I heard the only thing that I heard was you are improving, and then it broke out for a sec.
You're improving your toolkit.
Oh, yeah.
That toolkit of epistemology that you're breaking out every time you're learning something new. As long as you've got a good handle on that, yeah, it's an adventure. I entirely agree. There's another actual recent channel that opened up that goes into how to investigate things. It's called How to Skeptic. And it's V's new thing.
Channel, isn't it? I forgot about subscribing to that.
Absolutely subscribe to that. Of course, I'm gonna plug it.
We do talk on that show, or will. There's only one episode out so far, but we do. That is the focus of it. Less about here are the things to memorize, here are the things to know, and more about, okay, how do you determine if this is a good source, and how do you determine if you're absorbing something that's biased versus something that has been controlled for that. So a lot of the research mindset is what we'll focus on there. So comparing that with a lot of the other science educators and history educators online, to me, that's the best path forward, or at least the one I took.
Absolutely. Merissa, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that darn, I should have actually brought up with that caller who said, who was asking about how we host. And saying that we need to hold our side accountable and all of that.
Oh, I should have done that for you. I'm sorry. Damn.
Alrighty. So before we do anything else, V, you're not going to be here next week.
I am not, but a very cool person is.
I think we can announce it.
Yes, I'm
go for it.
Okay, so I'm very excited to be giving my seat virtually, of course, to Trey Crowder, who is going to be on the show with Eric next week. And oh my goodness, I'm excited to watch it.
Super, super funny dude. So,
it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, thank you for giving up your seat for that.
Oh, for sure.
That said, I think we should probably move over and talk about the crew just a little bit.
Yes, please.
There was a huge hiccup today.
Woo!
For people who are watching it, Bigfoot exists. That's from the Bigfoot Bible. For the crew, y'all rock. There's our crew Kitty. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, David. Thank you, Vern. Thank you, Paul.
Y'all are awesome.
Thank you, Bigfoot.
Thank you, Bigfoot.
This would not happen without you, especially on days like today when everything kind of went down.
Yeah, everything it was worst nightmare come true and fixed within 15 minutes.
Absolutely, which is fantastic. Also, we have been averaging 2,000 people watching, 246 upvotes. Smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, that said, let's throw up some love rings. You ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm never going to get tired of that. All right. So, whether you believe or not, it's a tough time. It feels like things aren't getting better soon enough. We know that whether you're working in the medical industry or you're stocking grocery shelves, for those of you who are essential workers who are helping keep society moving, thank you. You're doing your job. We're going to continue to do ours. For those of you who don't believe, yeah, we find ourselves all over the place, don't we?
For those of you who don't believe, yeah.
Well, I mean, the caller that we just had.
Yeah, no, this is the thing. For those of you who don't believe, this is not just a community for you to take part in for emotional support, although we are that. We are also a resource, all of us, everybody in the Discord, everybody on the Facebook page, everybody at Recovering from Religion, who we like to plug on this show. We are a resource for you. If you have questions, if you're like, hey, I am starting with a 8th grade level understanding of, microbiology. Who do I go to find more on that subject? we will have answers for you. The lovely people in this chat will have answers for you. So take advantage. We're here for you. We want to lift each other up in this pursuit of knowledge and skepticism.
Absolutely. Well said. Better than good. I like that. And for those of you who do believe, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. See you next week.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.